Hey there, hey friends, Ken here, your Thrifty Apprentice. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another creation video. Today I am going to share an experiment I did over in the creation station level of the Thrifty Patreon community in real time and then time-lapsed it for YouTube as I normally do. So this creation is one of many that I have stored in my archive of learning videos from over the last few years. I find that to be a wonderful way to circle back around and try a technique I might not have had time to try when I originally ran across the video. Whenever I'm watching the tubes, I will throw art technique videos in a private playlist. That way I can remind myself to give it a try once I have the time. Now, if you've been following me for a minute, you will remember that a few months back, I released a video showing you how I use alcohol markers under transparent watercolors for a super luminous effect. Today's creation is a play off of that, and I will be using alcohol markers under gouache for the first time. Now, I am working on Strathmore 400 series tone tan mixed media paper. The paper has a smoother texture than watercolor paper, yet I have found it to have enough tooth to allow the layering of several products on top of each other. The markers are a super budget brand known as Wrestling. I did a review on them at one point, so you can find that review on the channel if you would like to check it out. Now, I put down a base layer with a really light colored blue on both the blueberries and on my icy. Now, the colors, the colors are numbered, of course, and I don't remember what the numbers are. You may be able to see it on the end of the barrel as it angles. But I used a light blue, a medium blue, and a dark blue. I used the light blue as an overall first layer, keeping the page wet and then blending in the medium blue and the darker blue as it dried in order to keep some of the harsher marks. I wanted that to kind of act as shadow under the gouache layer once I got to that point. Now, same thing or same concept with the blueberries, although you will notice that I initially tried to shadow those blueberries with a gray marker, and it just wasn't giving me the punch that I wanted. So then I grabbed that dark blue marker that I used in the actual icy and used it to add the shadows to the blueberry area. But this is just the first layer, the underpainting, so I wasn't really concerned because I knew I could use the gouache to bridge the gap of color that I may have been missing from the markers. Now I used the light yellow marker in order to do the flesh and the very outside of the lemon. Now the funny thing is the reference photo that I used had two lemon, one on the glass and one sitting beside the actual lemon, but I just used my artist's judgment and I removed one of the lemons because I really did not like the way it looked with the blueberries, and I decided to add a tabletop for the glass to be sitting on. I'm just going to be keeping that tabletop sort of black wood looking, so I'm using a gray marker in order to lay down the first layer of color for it as well. Now this is not necessarily alcohol marker paper, so it will drink up the ink from your markers a lot more than using a paper that is, specifically meant for alcohol markers. Now, this is mixed media, don't get me wrong, and it did have some bleed through as well, so there's that. Now, the gouache I'm using today is a wonderful product, and you can also find a review for the gouache on the channel, and that's the Shinhan Professional Gouache. Hands down, one of my favorite brands of professional gouache on the market. I will try to remember to place links for both of those reviews in the video description. This project was so much fun, and many times you will see that I was kind of explaining what was going on in the creation process, and that's because this time lapse is available over on Patreon as a real-time painting tutorial in the Just Keep Painting art series. So if you are a Creation Station member, you will have access to that tutorial along with the traceable. If by chance you are not a member, then do consider joining. It's a lot of perks for a reasonable price. You can find the links in the video description. I do hope you decide to join us. Now, this project was the first time I was able to achieve such a frosty look on an object, in all honesty, allowing that first layer of gouache to be wet while I blended in the white to create the frost made all of the difference. You know, it's amazing. As the creator, I am still learning, even as I watch this back and do this voiceover. And that's why I love art so much. It's a constant experience. And another amazing thing you could possibly do pops out at you every single day. Then to be able to share that with others, just maybe pass on some information that someone else may not have known and be able to use and put into practice, man, I tell you, it is a really, really good feeling. A really good feeling. I love the effect that the alcohol marker base that I use, that gray marker that I use to kind of dot in shadow randomly where I knew the ice would kind of come over the top of the glass, just really added, in my opinion, a really 3D effect to it. And then I decided to go ahead and kind of frost the blueberries as well. Although that wasn't in the reference photo, I just kept seeing in my head like frosty blueberries from a couple of reference photos that I saw as I searched through Unsplash. And the white is what makes this painting. The white gouache really brings this painting home. And the tone tan paper really adds to everything. And I do like the fact that I did not necessarily have to put in a complete background in order to achieve an effective illustration simply because of the color of the paper. Now, I did cover the flesh of the lemon with some of the yellow gouache. Now, the layer was really watery because I'm trying to keep this gouache as quote unquote transparent as possible, you know, keeping in mind it's a gouache, and watering it down really takes it down to the level of like an opaque watercolor, not necessarily a transparent watercolor. So, it's working. It's working. I decided to use the black, water it down quite a bit. I mean, although it may look black in the little mixing well there, it is definitely a lot more water than it is paint. And I'm just using it to lay down a layer on top of the marker. And then I'm going to use that black in full strength with a flat brush straight on its side in order to put in, you know, my idea of what the little texture in wood would look like, and decided to just make it a solid tabletop versus trying to put any boards in it to make it look like a picnic table or whatever. But you know, you can do whatever you choose, whatever you want. I'm going in with that white gouache to enhance the area of that lemon that would be white. And then, of course, I'm going to draw those white dividing lines down the middle as you would normally see. I really like the way white gouache is an amazing thing. And this Shinhan white gouache is very opaque, very beautiful. I would put it on the same level as bleed proof. Of course, the only difference is bleed proof isn't going to allow another or a color to wick up through it as long as you know you allow it to dry. Ultimately, I will finish everything up with a dip pen. Now, in all honesty, the ink from this pen is water soluble. However, I don't normally have issues with running because I use the ink last for sort of outlining. You can, of course, use a permanent ink for yours if you give this a try. As a matter of fact, you don't have to use alcohol markers either. This would work with many different things as you're underpainting. You could use watercolor pens, pencils, watercolor crayons, or markers, or even Inktense products, which will have more permanent drying properties than most other water-soluble products. So don't think for a second you can't attempt this if you don't have like alcohol markers. Also, don't forget that you can use the gear icon in the top corner of your YouTube player to control the playback speed of this video, just in case you decide to slow it down to follow along. Now, I would suggest muting the video in that case so you don't have to listen to the strange sounds of a slowed video. So friends, how are you feeling? Is this something you think you might want to give a try? I mean, jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this project. Do let me know if you've already tried using alcohol markers under gouache or under watercolor. And if so, how was your experience? I would really like to know and get that started in the conversation. And that's pretty much going to just kind of wrap this up as you see me throw shadow up under everything in order to ground it to the project. So my friends, you know the drill. Go ahead and give the video a little love with a thumbs up. You can share if you care to. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscription button and notification bell so you'll know when we upload, when we go live. You can check the video description for all of the relevant links. And remember, as I always tell you, just keep creating, my friends.